All right. So, as I like to say with these things, as long as everything is working the way that it should be working, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Writerish Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea and I write books about black girls who aren't all that nice. And today I am here with the Melanin Chat. And normally this is the part where I would introduce my amazing co-host, but she is busy today, you guys. So, for those of you who know and are part of the after chat, then you are aware that Audra has started a new business venture recently and she's working on that. So, it is junk hauling. So if you guys are interested in it, you can head over to her channel and, check out her videos because she has been recording and uploading them. But this morning it is just me while she's out there being great and amazing and working on her stuff. So shout out to everyone who is in here in the chat with me this morning. Hello, welcome. Let's see here. Ben is here. J Monet is here. TEB is here. Vina, Noma, good morning. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before, Noma. Good morning. And Z is here. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know how y'all are faring. And yeah, I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to get in here. And hopefully I can hold us down today without Audra, because y'all know she's the funny one. Y'all know she's the interesting one. So we'll see. We'll see. And also, if you guys are here in the chat, be sure to check out the Q&A. So if you have anything that you would like me to talk about this morning, we can get into that. So I'm excited. Today's going to be a good day. I'm claiming it because the start of this week was a little rough. It was a little rough for me. I'm not even going to hold you, but we are here and it's going to be great and it's going to be amazing. And yeah. Also, shout out to Ash and Joanne who just came in. Hope you guys are doing well. And I'm going to go ahead and get myself pulled up because we got a Melanin Spotlight that I'm supposed to be giving you guys. So give me 2 seconds because when I tell y'all that showing up has been a challenge these last couple of days, we are here and we are surviving. The Discord link was very helpful. I'm happy I made it. Whoop, whoop. I'm glad. And for those of you who don't know, I have a server called the Lockhart server. So, merch. But also, the Lockhart server is specifically for the people who enjoy reading my books and stuff and for updates for me because newsletters are difficult in my brain. So if you want to know what's happening with me, I suggest you join. We also have fun discussions about We Are the Origin and We Are Dying Gods and also snippets of Project Necromancer. So if you're into any of that, there is a link in the description box below. It's literally called the Lockhart server. You just need to click it and join. It's free. It's free. So yeah, no reason not to. No reason not to. But yeah, let me go ahead and give you guys this Melanin Spotlight for this morning because there are a couple of things that we need to talk about on this Melanin Chat this morning. I am gonna hold you. So I say that as I realize that I don't have the things that I wrote down to pull up because I am not as organized as I would like to be because I don't know, when Audra's not here, y'all, my mind be going all over the place. So take that for what you will. Take that for what you will. But Melanin Spotlight, the book for today is The Gifted Society by Tatiana White. And if you guys don't know, I actually found this author on Instagram, I want to say. Instagram, Twitter, one of those Bookish world. She actually did a Kickstarter for her book and it's just kind of like, oh, okay. So watching that in real time was really interesting because a lot of times indie authors just kind of like you either have it or you don't, but she did a whole campaign for it and she got it successfully funded. So I am curious what the actual content of the book is because y'all know me, I have not read this book, but I have seen it across my timeline and is actually available now. So that being said, the description for the book reads, 16-year-old Alexia has a secret. She's a Varian, burdened with the gift of shooting stars through her skin. And after watching her best friend Sarai, yeah, and And after watching her best friend Sarai get falsely accused of murder upon changing into a Varian, Alexia wants no one to know. She keeps her secret tight and close until an accident with her strange abilities critically injures her father, threatening her identity to be revealed. Alexia flees and goes on the run to avoid death row. While in transit, she meets Greta, a quirky antique shop owner who promises her safety with other Varians in a realm called the Grove. Alexia is skeptical, but once she learns Sarai has been kidnapped from prison and taken to the Grove to be sacrificed by Reveneers, a secret society of hitmen, she becomes intent on finding and saving her from another dire fate. Greta introduces Alexia to the Grove and her new home at Malvo Prep Academy and Sanctuary, a premier school for Varian teens to study and hone their knowledge and skill. There, Alexia rooms with a pyrokinetic hothead who can't stop kissing her boyfriend and takes tours with her assigned campus mentor, a wisecracking morphing teleporter named Kyle. With the help of her newfound friendships, Alexia delves deeper into the Grove's hidden history for clues on the present. All she wants is to find Sarai and save her. But the closer she gets to the Reveneers, the more danger she and her friends are in. Alexia must decide if friendship is worth the wrath of war and suffering, and even worse, betrayal. So, it has a lot going on, but obviously it's very, very fantasy, very, I don't know if it's dark academia, but it's very academia based, right? So, I am curious how it goes, because when it comes to fantasy and world building, I feel like, I don't know, harsh critic. I just feel like it's either done really well and you fall in love with the book, or you're like, oh, this was a great concept. Implementation could be better, but the idea was there. The vibes were there, right? So I'm hoping that this is the former, where it's like, it's really well done. Because like I said, she crowdfunded this and everything. And I know that there were a lot of people who were excited about this. And the cover is honestly, like, I'm not going to say it's, how do I put this? I was going to say stunning, but that's not the feeling I get. But it is a really well done cover. Like, it has a nice balance, and I feel like it has a good focal point. I like everything about the cover. Let me put it like that. I have no complaints about it. So if you're into it, y'all already know there's a link in the description box. So get into it. It takes you to the Melanin Library, and you can support a book by a Black author. And this is also indie. So go for it. Get into it. That being said, you guys, I feel like there is so much that has been happening in the bookish world. Am I the only one that finds Chelsea's odd reactions as she reads the summary music? Is it? Did I do something weird? I can't see myself when I'm reading the summary because the description is up on the screen. Am I weird? Did I do something funny with my face? I'm so sorry. I just be trying to read, y'all. I don't look at myself while I'm reading summaries and stuff. But yeah. Also, La just came in. Good morning. Welcome. Read Love Listen is here too. Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome. Just as a reminder, if you guys are coming in, there is a Q&A if you have anything that you specifically want me to talk about, because Audra is not here today, and that makes me sad. But we are celebrating because her business that she poured her heart, blood, sweat, tears, and energy into is getting off the ground, which means she's busier. So we're happy, but also we're sad. So anywho, have you guys heard about Michael the librarian? He's this biracial librarian, and he was on like TikTok and Twitter, and all he did was like spread positivity. He was like very much like a modern day Black Mr. Rogers. I think that's the best way to explain him and his energy. You're not weird, Ben. It's just messing with you, and the live reactions make my day. Look, I am who I am, so I hope if it is weird, there's nothing I can do about it. But yeah, they bullied him off of the internet, and y'all, when I saw that, and there are so many people reacting to it, because basically, if you're not aware, like I said, Michael is a librarian, and all he did was get on the internet and tell people to be literate, like pick up a book and read. And it's just like, he is like the most wholesome person on the internet. Like, literally, he would just share librarian stories with the library kids and library adults, and like what's going on and how books can change lives and they're important, and to, get a library card, right? honestly so wholesome. How? I don't even know how or why people decided that this man had darkness in him and that he was a problem. Like, girl, what? What? It's insane. It is absolutely unhinged behavior. Also, Shannon just came in. Hello, welcome. She made friends with the like button. You can too. But yeah, I have heard about Michael. I always love to come across his reels on Instagram. Yes, yes, he's so wholesome, so wholesome. And I heard of that, but that's so toxic. When I tell y'all watching it, like I watched Michael and his content, but I wasn't like a hardcore follower. So I'm not going to pretend like to know everything, but I really enjoyed coming across his content because it was literally, he was just so excited to be talking about books and library kits. And I remember him talking specifically about the one time that he had his tattoos out or whatever, and a library kid reacted to it, and he was like, oh, like my grandpa has tattoos. And it was just like a connection moment. I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. And I'm like, how are y'all going to get on this internet in 2024 and bully this man into leaving his job? Like, what? Y'all, this is unhinged behavior. And I feel like people really need to like check themselves, because how? Right? I love how you always pronounce that librarian. You and Audra, y'all gonna leave me alone one, but librarian. What is the first R for? I would just like to know. What is the first R really for? There's a librarian at the library. Y'all gonna leave me alone one of these days. One of these days. Michael's my actual librarian. That's my local library, and I'm distraught of what happened. We rot at dawn for legal reasons. That's a joke. First of all, it's cool that he was your actual librarian, but also that sucks. That really sucks, because he seems like, here's the thing, when you go to the library, you have those librarians who are like at the front and they're like, hey, welcome. And then you have those librarians who are like, hi, can I help you? And like they actually know the library and can actually find a book and actually know if it's in stock and actually keep up with things and like actually want to be helpful, right? And I feel like Michael was very much one of those people who was like, he probably had like the entire interior of the library memorized, the entire catalog. Like he could tell you what was in stock and what was available without even thinking about it, you know? So I hate that. I really do. I really, really do. His page and videos always made my day so positive, right? And I saw Jason Reynolds actually mention something. So hopefully, Michael responded on Twitter, because I follow him mostly on Twitter. I don't know. That's where I've been spending most of my time lately, because creating video content is like, that's a huge mental commitment that I'm not always prepared to make. So making content for YouTube is one thing, but making video content for YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are all just like, you got to pick one sometimes. And by sometimes, I mean all the time. And right now I'm in my YouTube era. So I have been spending a lot more time on Twitter just in general, because I'm like, ooh, this only requires words. This only requires words. I can do this. I can do words all day, every day. Video content? That's different. That's different. But yeah, I also saw somebody mention that he was going to be working for PBS. So hopefully this is just something like a transition. And sometimes, you know, what is the saying? You know, sometimes what looks like, I don't want to say a curse, but what looks like a negative thing is really a blessing in disguise. You know, maybe he definitely loves the library. So maybe he would have never left and been pushed into what it is that he needs to be doing for his greater purpose, right? Greater purpose. If this hadn't happened. So hopefully it worked out to his favor, because, you know, the Bible says all things work to the good of those who love me. So I don't know nothing about Michael. I don't know nothing about his religion, his faith, or nothing like that. But I just really genuinely hope that things work out for him, and that the PBS series works out for him, that this is a blessing in disguise, and this is the push he needed to take that next step to something better in his life. You know, I just want things to work out for that man. I really do. I say that like I know him. I don't, but like, wholesome. Like I said, he's very much Mr. Rogers energy. And I say that never having actually watched Mr. Rogers, but I've seen enough clips to know that man was wholesome. That man was very wholesome. So yeah. Um, I wanted to touch base on you guys about that, but also shifting to some of the other things that have been happening, because you guys mentioned some things too. So, oh, I was supposed to do that today. Oh well, I was gonna try to see if I could put these questions up on screen, but I feel like that's a feature that I'm gonna have to experiment with on another day. So, one door closes sometimes, so a better one can open. Exactly. Exactly. And Mr. Rogers used to bore me as a kid. I never watched Mr. Rogers. That was not me. I was very much, if I was on PBS Kids, I was watching cartoons and stuff. I was not watching Mr. Rogers ever. Like, the only way I know about him is retroactively when people were talking about it from a collective, like, shared memory that I was just not a part of. Like, that one is not one that I collected for myself. But yeah, but Vina brought up the lack of promotion of Black books by publishers this month. So, and by this month specifically, we're talking about Black History Month, because we have, like, what, 3 days left? And not even counting today, is 3 days left in Black History Month, right? And it's been so interesting to watch this year, because normally Black History Month is when you get a lot of it's Black History Month, read Black books, diversify yourselves. And I don't know, I feel like 2024 has really taken a turn, because normally my feed is like flooded with books by Black authors during this month, and this was not this month was not that, like, at all. It was very much like, I don't know, I don't say business as usual, but it was like minimal effort, because if, like, Black History Month is normally on like a 10 or whatever, like, this month was like on a 2, not even. And I find it very interesting that there were not more people talking about these books that are coming out, because there are several things that, again, watching Twitter, I was just like, oh, so this is the route that we are going. This is interesting. Hold on. Y'all know I can't do 2 things at one time, and since Audra's not here, I'm trying to monitor the chat on my own, and that is a special talent. Other doors are open for Michael. He's been an Afro Revolution event. He's doing an Afro Revolution event and will be active in other ways. Awesome. Cool. I'm glad that he's not being 100% pushed out. They have Show They Don't Care. Where are the Black author panels, the nonfiction authors on TV shows or their social media plays? This was the most, yes, it's very low effort. I think people are tired of pretending. It's a shame Black books aren't promoted as much. And it's crazy. And I don't know. The thing for me also is, I don't know if you guys follow her, but Bethany Baptiste, I follow her on Twitter, and I've kind of been watching her journey. And, you know, a lot of, I guess, not even a lot of people, I'm not gonna say a lot of people, I'm not gonna assume people's, like, point of reference, right? But I didn't really, like, I followed Bethany, but I did not really see her on my timeline until the whole Kate Corain fiasco, right? And I don't know if I have been keeping up with her, but I feel like she has had the roughest time with her book and her publisher, from the whole Kate Corain fiasco to currently, you know, her book was supposed to come out beginning of next month on the 2nd, which is crazy, because I should have seen that book everywhere, like all over the place, right? If it's coming out literally the first week of March, but whatever. And apparently her publisher also was like, they messed up. They don't have the final, they printed the wrong version of her book or whatever. And they had this whole press tour set up for her with, like, multiple stops and stuff. And they have to, like, do a complete reprinting of her books or whatever. And so now she has the reality of, she has to, like, push books that are not the final version or whatever. And I'm just like, yo, during Black History Month? That's wild. And it's it's been crazy because she's like, there are some people who are going to be like, oh, it's the first edition of a book. It's got mistakes. It's got printing errors and stuff like that. Like, there are always people who like to collect stuff like that. But also, if you follow her and you're going to an event, you don't want to buy a book that you then have to turn around and buy again 2 or 3 weeks later when the mass production with the correction actually comes out. So I thought that was so freaking wild. Her journey's been rough. They also misprinted her cover on the wrong paper. Are you serious? Yeah, Bethany's been going through it. And I feel like every time I talk to authors, right? Every time there's always that two-sidedness of it, right? There's some authors who have a great experience and there's some authors who have a completely different experience altogether. And I feel like what Bethany is going through is very much that opposite experience that no one wants to talk about, but it's kind of like the Russian roulette that everybody fears with traditional publishing, where it's just like everything goes wrong and there's not much that you can do about it. So I'm just like, yo, that's crazy. That's wild. But it also, I feel like, is reflective of how they treat Black authors, because there was also with Bethany's book, that she was supposed to have cover, was it a cover reveal or like pre-orders or something with a Black owned company. I'm not going to name names because I think we all know who it was, but she was supposed to have like a pre-order campaign launch with her cover reveal with a Black owned bookstore after the whole Kate Corain thing, and they weren't ready or whatever with the pre-order links or whatever when she was supposed to do her cover reveal. So that also kind of fell apart at the seams. And I'm like, I feel for this woman. I really, really do. And just kind of watching that, and that gives me that takes my brain in two different places, right? One, it makes me grateful to be an indie author, because it's like stuff like that is like, it sucks, but it's also like, there are certain things that you are in control of. And it's just like, if you sent the wrong book to Amazon or the wrong file to Amazon, it's really easy to go back in and fix it, right? Or Ingram Spark, even, you can go in and fix that on your own. You don't have to wait. But to have your book be printed and going on a press tour and not having books, like, been there, done that. I have been to events where they did not have my books, and it was just kind of like, why am I even here? Like, it's such a wasted opportunity, and it's such a frustrated opportunity too, because you see people come out for you and you see people who like enjoy your work or will hear you talk and want to get into your work, and you cannot capitalize off of that moment, that impulse buy. And it's like, you're like, yo, what? Why was this not better organized? Who needs to be fired? You get very much into your Karen era and you're like, let me speak to a manager. I need to speak to a manager. Because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's see. I was so mad that I randomly saw that Ruby Bridges just released a book last month after I saw her on Late TV. These publishers, I did not know Ruby Bridges had released a book. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sourcebooks hates Black people, and it shows in both their hiring practice and best debut rollout. That's crazy. But the thing is, you guys, I feel like, okay, so follow me, right? Follow me in this train of thought. Also a reminder that if you're here, you haven't tapped the like button, to go ahead and do that. But my train of thought, right? Over the weekend on Sunday, actually, I moderated a panel for a new, I don't know, it's a book group collective. It's called Lifted Book Festival. And their whole thing is about uplifting authors and such. And the entire panel was Black authors. So it might be authors of color specifically. I will leave a link in the description box below. But the thing is, when I did it, I got to talk to these authors about, their journeys, because there were the entire panel, with the exception of myself, was traditionally published authors. And so we talked about that journey for them, and, what marketing has been like, and, how basically, essentially, you have to wear all of the hats or whatever. And it was such an interesting thing, because within the conversation, we ended up touching on the fact that, 2020 there were a lot of publishers, a lot of editors, a lot of bookish professionals, right, who were like, we want black books, we want black books. And, you know, a lot of them talked about how they got into the industry in that moment and their book was like well supported, right? But now here we are 4 years later, and all of that hype and all of that gusto and all of the wind in those sails are basically deflating. And and they were talking about what the experience has been like, and I'm just kind of like, and even during Black History Month, I'm like, y'all are really doing the bare minimum, and it shows, and it's just like, there is this space, I guess, where my brain goes to, what are we collectively as a community going to do about this? Because I feel like every time it's such a predictable cycle at this point that I can't even be mad about it. You know? And it's just like, what do we do, right? And then it's also kind of like but what is there to do, right? Like, we're individuals, right? Like, we're a community, but a lot of us are individuals. But it's such a strange place to be. And it also makes me wonder, it's just like, I always come back to this question, right? Is there even a benefit in being traditionally published if you have to do everything yourself regardless? And it's just, I don't know, man. Sorry, my throat was getting dry. Let's see here. It's not even going to be 2 to 3 weeks later. It'll probably be a few months. And the publisher said, well, all child books have mistakes printed in them. That's what they said to her? It's supposed to be months later? So her debut is supposed to be March, because I know her debut got pushed back to March 26th. I saw that. And they're not even going to have the books until months later. That's crazy. I'm catching up on the comments, you guys. I can't read and talk at the same time. Y'all know this about me. I'm glad that you're here for the ride. And it seems that the most vocal people who spoke out about that Kate situation have book drama. Yeah, honestly. But also, I think I always mess up their name. Is it Jiren J. Zhao? Jiren J. Zhao? I feel like they also have a lot of book drama because, okay, you know what? This is my hot take, you guys. And it's not really a hot take. It's just the reality. There are some authors who are vocal on the internet, and there are some authors who are not. And I have noticed that the ones who are not are the ones who consistently have the ability to put out books the way that they would like to, or to the type of response that they would like to. And it's such a minor thing. I don't even know if you can call it a macroaggression, a microaggression, or whatever. But I have noticed that the authors who are very vocal about their journeys and what they are going through are not the most successful authors that you see when it comes to traditional publishing. Like, when their debuts or whatever, you might see them hit like a list, right? But then after that, you never really see them talking about how great things are going. They talk about, oh, this is unfair. Like, I'm one of the lucky ones, but, and there's always that caveat. And then it's always like, okay, I see your book because I follow you and you're definitely here online. But they never reach the same level of accolades as some of the larger authors, I'll say. And I'm not going to name any names, at least not until we get to the after chat. So this is your reminder to sign up for the Patreon if you want my honest, unfiltered opinion. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that are broken and need to change, but I'm not really one to speak on it because, like, I'm not in traditional publishing. But yeah, the author of Iron Widow, they've talked about their experience because they were also speaking out against Palestine, and their editor was basically holding their edits hostage. Like, they've talked about it. If you're not on Twitter, Noma, you should definitely check them out on Twitter because they talk about it a lot. A lot. So yeah. Let's see here. Sex is happening to Bethany during what's supposed to be a happy moment. I've seen too many Black authors on tour and their books are out of stock or not ordered. Yeah. I think there's so much that could be done better when it comes to just promoting in general, because it's like little things. And it's part of the reason why me personally, if y'all follow the channel, y'all know that one of the bookstores that I go to all the time is Resist Booksellers in Petersburg, right? And I absolutely love that bookstore. If you were in the area, can stop by, you should go. Why? Because Demetrius stands on business. Like if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it, and he actually shows up for authors. And as long as you come correct and you're professional and you navigate the bookish world as a professional, he will do right by you. I have never ever had an issue with Resist Booksellers, and mind you, I live like 7-8 hours away. That is not a local bookstore for me. But if I ever do an event, it is almost always 100% with the Resist Booksellers. Because the other thing is, as an indie author, there's something to be said about a bookseller who keeps your books in stock. Like, it's so frustrating to have people play in your face and be like, yeah, I want to support you. Oh my God, I'm so excited for your book. But then there's so many hoops to jump through for them to like put your book in their store. And they're like, oh, especially once they find out that you're indie, because for better for worse, I feel like a lot of people approach We Are the Origin not realizing that it's an indie book. And I'm fine with that. I intentionally put in work to make it as seamless as I could with the other books that are traditionally published, right? But then once they find out, when I tell y'all those conversations have taken a complete 180 turns, it's just kind of like, to not have a book stocked is one thing, but to treat it as if it's not a big deal is a completely other one. And as an author, that just infuriates me like so much, especially for a release, especially for a press tour, especially for a Black author, because there are so many people who are not going to give that book a chance beyond the debut. And I know this because how many authors have debuted since 2020, specifically Black authors, that we have just never heard from again? Like ever. Ever. Some of them switch genre, right? But it is what it is. I'm not going to go on a soapbox, but it's interesting to watch the rise and fall of so many people. And I guess it's also the nature of the industry. Like, some people debut and they do well, and then some people don't, and some people only have that one book inside of them, and that's it. They got their 15 minutes and they dip out. But moving on. Let's see here. Watched your panel. It was good. I was happy that many of those authors had good experiences. Thanks. For those of you who came to the panel, I appreciate it, because that was an experience. It was the first one that they'd organized, so that was an experience, and getting it set up, was a feat. So if you guys actually watched the panel, thank you. I'm glad. It was a good panel. Loved watching the panels on Sunday. They were, yeah. Only benefit left is the guaranteed money from whatever advance you get. Look, J. Monet, I feel like we could talk about this. I feel like we could have a whole conversation about traditional publishing and what it offers authors, because especially in this economy, in a very unstable economy, I feel like, for better or for worse, traditional publishing is going to have a resurgence, because being indie published in a way that is professional takes investment up front. And the way everything is getting more expensive, even if you do have supplemental income, that income that you have to dedicate is not always going to be the same amount. And if it is, great. But also, if you're feeling the pressure of inflation and the way this economy is set up, I feel like traditional publishing, because it's a business, it's a I don't want to say an entity, separate from an individual, it's obviously more likely to survive whatever the economy is going through, and that's going to re-strengthen the gatekeepers. And I feel like that is the only thing that has been keeping it going for very long. It's that if you do this and you make it through, there will be a check on the other side. And it's just like, for a lot of people, it's like, that's not always something that you can turn down, And I feel like that's also part of the reason why we're seeing kind of this trend, because I feel like there are a lot of authors who are not in a place to push back, because that's something that we also talked about on the panel. Sometimes it's literally one of those life things. It's like, pick and choose your battles or whatever. And I think we're entering into an era where we're going to see more authors who are not chosen, and then when they are, they don't have the room to push back to get exactly what they want or need from their book. So I'm interested to see where this is going, because doing it yourself is getting a lot harder. Like, I will just admit that doing it yourself in 2024 is a lot harder than doing it yourself in, I'll say, like 2020, 2021. If only because, the things that you have to outsource are going to be more expensive, because people have to live. They have to survive. So, but I feel like that's a whole other conversation. I need to get him back in Twitter and social media. And a lot of Black authors only hit the list for 1 week during their debut. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not going to say it's a scam or a ploy, but I feel like I'm trying to figure out how to word this as nicely as I can. Let me say this. I feel like some authors are really good at what they do, and they have earned their spot on those lists. And I know that those spots are given out based upon how much they like you, essentially, because if it was just a numbers game and there was no help behind the scenes, I feel like we would we could actually trust those lists to represent what people enjoy. But that's not what it is. It's basically a display case. It is, this publisher has chosen this author to be on display at this moment, at this time. Therefore, look at them, right? And anything beyond that is, I don't want to say luck of the draw, but it's very much politics, right? But even so, I feel like even if those lists were based off of merit, I feel like within the cog of the machine, there are a lot of authors who are not the cream of the crop. I feel like traditional publishing kind of collects authors who are very much middle of the road, who fall into line. And I feel like that's an important distinction to make, because sometimes I feel like, especially on the outside, it could be like, oh, well, why them and not me? And it's just kind of like I said, those authors who are really vocal, some of them are really struggling. And a lot of them, I'm going to say a lot of them, some of them do not stay within the traditional publishing world. They end up leaving to go indie because, when you're not essentially the prize horse, you're in the stables the entire time. And it's like, nobody wants to ride the bench their entire career, but that's essentially what it is. And I find it interesting. I find it extremely interesting. I don't know. Like I said, as an author watching it, there's always that exactly what Read Love Listen said. They love the sheep. They love the people who don't question things, the people who fall in line. Because again, I'm not saying it's wrong. Everybody got to do what they got to do. But, I think about, L.L. McKinney and like Bethany Morrow, right? Who are very, very vocal online when 2020 was happening, right? And then I also think about how their books were promoted and what we've seen from them. I'll say, I know that they have a book coming out together, but would any of you be able to tell me what that book is or what it's about? Because I've seen it, but I haven't heard about it, if that makes sense. Like, I've seen it because I follow them individually, because I follow Black authors just to know what's happening, right? But I have not seen a single person talk about that book on my timeline, and it already has a cover, right? So it's just like, those people were vocal, right? But then also I look at Tracy Dion. She ain't never online. She ain't never talking about anything but her book. Look at where she's at. I think about Christina Forrest. She's never online. She does nothing but talk about her book and then go on about her day. And I know that there's a certain level of, politics and like colorism that play into that. But also, it doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go unnoticed which of those authors are far more successful, because L.L. McKinney and Bethany also fall into, I don't say light skin privilege, because I'm not trying to get into the touches of colorism that play, because that's a whole other conversation. But racism is very layered, and it plays into different things. So I'll just leave it at that. I just find it interesting. Right? But yeah, India, hold on. Trying to catch up. There's a group of grandfather authors who are able to keep publishing, and I'm like, interesting. Yep. And people underrate indie fantasy for no reason. Okay. I don't know why they do, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Every indie fantasy book that I have read has been so much better. So much better than any traditional fantasy that I have read in recent years. And it is mind-boggling, actually, because it's just like, imagine what you can draw when you're not in a box that you have to cater to. And it's just like, I am one of those people where it's like, I write indie fantasy, but I'm also a really harsh critic. So trying to find the right blend of, I don't want to say skill, but like I want to read books that are skillfully written. And sometimes most books don't hit that mark for me, but indie books hit that mark a lot more often than traditionally published books do, because there are several books that I have seen on my timeline that I was just like, oh, this looks really good, this premise seems really interesting, I should get into this. And then I was like, nope. I saw the writing, I saw the world building, I saw the way the magic system was, I saw the characters or how they were introduced, and I was like, you know what? This is not going to be for me. I'm not going to waste my money. I'm not going to do this, because I feel like that's also something that is, like I said, trad publishing does not necessarily get the cream of the crop. They get the people who are willing to be like, hey, I want to fall in line as long as you will help me. And I feel like those are two completely different mentalities, and that as a collective, as a bookish community, we should acknowledge that that is what it is. It is not, oh, you are the best writer of all the writers who submitted to us. No, you are the writer that we thought we could market and also keep in line to do our job most efficiently. Just like if you apply for a job, even if you are a genius and you could do that job in your sleep, if you are going to cause the company more issues than if they hired the next person who's not as efficient, who's not as smart, but is going to follow the rules, show up on time, and do their job, and they can, I don't say be controlled, but they can be controlled. I mean, it's kind of clear which one they're going to hire. They're not going. I feel like a lot of people believe that like publishing is looking for independent thinkers who are going to push the boundaries, and they're not. They are not. So we're gonna leave that at that. Because I don't know what's in my future. So if I ever become part of the traditional publishing machine, know that it is for the money. I have been bought, and I'm okay with that. I accept the consequences of those actions, because I too live in this economy. But we're gonna leave that alone. Let's see here. Most people don't get 6-figure deals. They get less than 10K broken into installments over 2 years. Yeah. We're not even going to talk about that. But sometimes anything is more than zero. And I feel like a lot of authors, especially if they want to be full-time, if you don't have an outside income, sometimes something is better than nothing. And I feel like traditional publishing treats authors that way, especially Black authors. But yeah. It's not just sales, because some other folks hit the list, but yeah, we're not even going to talk about that. I can't do trad pub unless the circumstances are good, because let someone disrespect me, my husband, my family ain't going to have that. And I don't want to pay 10 people's bill. Yeah. I saw this author this month get left off the list of Black books being promoted in her publisher's giveaway. She was upset. Oh. And see, that's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's why I don't know if trad publishing would be for me, because it's politics. And if y'all know anything about me, I suck at politics, because I'm not really good at curbing my tongue. I'm really not good about being like, so just say what you meant with your whole chest. Like, don't sit here and play in my face. I hate the whole social construct. I'm going to like lie to you and say something that I don't mean, or like word it in such a way where it's like, well, technically I didn't say that, or, oh no, I didn't get that in writing, so it didn't happen. Like, bump that. I'm not about it. I'm not about it. I'm not built for it. If y'all know anything about my teaching experience, that's part of the reason why I'm not a teacher anymore, because I was like, so you said, and they're like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Then what did you say? Then what did you say? Say it in plain English. We all speak English let me stop. I'm not going to have a potty mouth on the public live. I'm not going to have a potty mouth, but you understand that politicking makes me want to fight. And I am not a fighting person. I'm not going to say I'm not violent. I have violent internal monologues, but I'm not a violent person in real life. But it makes me want to chop somebody in the throat. For real. But let's see here. Even some of indie fantasy written by ministers. I have yet to find a fantasy book written by a man that I really enjoy. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I found some that weren't bad, but I have yet to find a fantasy book written by a man that I was just like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. I think the one that I could probably give the most props to is Antoine Bandele and his books. But even those, they're not perfect. Like, I like them, I enjoy them, and I would highly recommend, TJ Young to a middle grade young adult audience looking for Black fantasy. But I wouldn't say they were perfect. But definitely better than most of the other books that I have read. But then again, I don't read as prolifically as I'm not say probably should, but as I could, I guess. Because if those first couple pages ain't hitting, I'm not going to get through it. Like, imagine someone serving you a plate of food and that first bite just doesn't do it for you. You're like, I don't like this. Imagine sitting there and eating the whole plate of food anyway. Like, what? No. That's how I feel about books. And when people are like, it gets better, I'm like, so what? I just have to, like, keep going? And I'm like, does it get better? Does it get better? Or... here's my thing. I'm like, does it get good, or is your perception just warped because the beginning was bad and therefore it is better than it was in the beginning, right? I feel like that's a conversation that needs to be had, because I'm like, how do you start off on the wrong foot, but it's still a good book? I don't know. I feel like that's questionable. It's questionable theory. I'm not about that. I'm not about it. Let's see here. Look, you spoke about Bones to the Wind, and I have that being the next thing I read, but I feel like fantasy lately has been samey. Like, it's fantasy, make it wild, make it different. It is fantasy. Okay, look, you brought up Bones to the Wind. I did not, so I want that to be known, right? It wasn't me, but literally that. Oh my, here's the thing. Part of the reason why I loved Bones to the Wind is, first of all, Tatiana's talented. Like, I'm not going to take that away from her. But also, it's a concept that I had not already seen done front ways, back ways, sideways, flipped around, reversed. I do not want any more retellings. And I feel like we are stuck in such an era of, I'm going to take this thing and make it Black. No. Have an original idea. And by original, I'm not saying no one has to have never thought of it. But my God. I am so sick of this book is like this, except Black. This book is like Twilight, but make it Black. This book is like Harry Potter, but make it Black. And I'm like, no, please, for the love of God, for the love of all that is good in this world. You have the entirety of your imagination. Please stop limiting it to whatever the oppressors gave you. Please do something original. Please do something fun. Oh my God, you have fantasy. There are literally no rules. There is not a singular rule that you have to follow in fantasy. And you're telling me you sat here for days, weeks, months, in some cases years, and this was the best that you got? Girl, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, all the things that I'm writing, it's so interesting because I'm like, I am not the first person to write about Black assassins, will not be the last person to write about Black assassins. But I can honestly say that I have not seen anyone write Black assassins the way that I wrote We Are the Origin. It was purely a thing of, oh, I thought this would be fun. Oh, I think this should happen next. Like, I have not seen anyone doing what I'm doing the way that I do it. And that's intentional because it's like, I'm not gonna say I'm not trying to write to, I'm not trying to write to a market or whatever. I'm saying that, like, I want to write books that people don't know that they are looking for. I want to write a book that's going to pleasantly surprise you. I want to write a book where you're going to pick it up thinking it's going to be like, oh, it's just another book. And then it gets into you, like it sinks its claws into you because it's not like other things. And I feel like, and this is a hot take, right? very hot take, but I feel like if you can truly comp your book between two other things, there's really no point in writing it because it's already been done. It's already been done. So it's just like, that's just my take on it. Like, I intentionally try to think of things where it's just like, if I had to comp my books, I was like, it would have to be with like 5 different things. And it's just like an element of this, an element of that. And it's just like, y'all, it's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to not be exactly like anything else, because I'm like, I don't know. Because even with Project Necromancer, like, obviously it's a necromancer. There are certain things that are going to be the same, but I'm also like, the things that she's dealing with, the way the magic system is set up, the way that these characters are interacting, the way everything is going about, it's not going to be like, I don't know, what is the necromancer book? What is it? I don't know. I haven't read it, so I can't say it's not going to be like it. But the thing is, I think that's the other thing too. Part of the reason why I'm not going to say I don't read prolifically or whatever, but part of the reason I don't necessarily read a bunch of books that are like, oh, because, linear thoughts. I feel like as authors, there's this advice out there that's like, hey, if you want to write in this genre, you need to read in this genre. I think that's valid advice to an extent, but I also am like, if I'm writing a book about necromancers, I'm not just going to go read every book that's ever mentioned a necromancer, because I'm not trying to be like those books. I have my own imagination. I'm going to write my book, and then I'm going to be like, oh, when I read those other books, I might be like, oh, this has similar things, which makes freaking sense because they're about the same kind of character. But at the same time, what's the point of being like, I feel like there are genre conventions, there are tropes, and there's writing the literal same book that someone else has already written. And I'm like, if it happens because y'all have similar imaginations, that's one thing, right? Because ideas come to everyone differently, right? That's one thing. But to be like, oh, I read your book and therefore I wanted it to be this, but slightly different. I'm like, y'all are not writing books. Y'all are writing fan fiction. Just call it that. And also, Twilight is not a good book. Why do we need to make it black? Yeah. So Z, no judgments, please. But which book was Twilight, but make it black? I mean, that's how she's marketing the book, so it's not even funny. What is her name? Brittany S. Lewis, the author of The Undead Truth of Us. She's writing her next book, I think, is like Twilight meets something but black. Pretty sure she's the one who said that. So yeah. Oh, also Ben pointed out that Bones to the Wind is on the shelf. So yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it, but here, when I went to Texas, I actually got to meet Tatiana. So her books are now on the shelf. They're signed and everything. I now have 4 copies. I have 2 copies of each book. I have the ebook, and then I also have the signed hard copies, because that's how much I love the book. And y'all know that I don't buy books like this. I really don't. But yeah, Tatiana's books are really good. So if you're looking for good fantasy, exceptional fantasy, I highly recommend Bones to the Wind. Honestly, I recommend anything that Tatiana writes, because Sister Samurai is also exceptional and incredible, and it's a novella. So if you want to see if her writing style works for you, you can get into Sister Samurai. This one also on the shelf. I have all of Tatiana's books. So Sister Samurai is also really, really good. So if you watch anime, Sister Samurai, but also if you just like fantasy that's also really well written and thought out with world building, Sister Samurai. It's short. It's a novella, so you can get into it, see if you like it. But yeah. Okay. Now that I'm done hyping up Tatiana because she's amazing. Let's see here. They assume because it sold before, they should keep reselling it over and over. Yeah, I don't know. I could never. Sometimes reading something so bad is therapeutic. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hold you. One of my favorite things recently is to read books and then also rip them apart with my author friends, because it's just like, here's the thing. And I think this should also be talked about more. People who read books that are not good, everyone's not like, oh my God, this is amazing. There are some people who are like that, but a lot of people are just kind of like, so this is what we're reading? This is what we're doing? Okay, cool. Like, as an author, I'm judgmental. I think y'all should know that about me at this point. Jesus is working on me. I haven't got to that point in my journey yet. And so whenever I'm just looking at other books and stuff and I'm like, people, this is y'all's king? This is your king. Okay. All right. And it's just like, I feel like there's also the reality that some people just want what's given to them. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to question it. They don't want to challenge it. That's cool. No judgment. But then I'm also like, there is a difference between being like, I like this because it was given to me and I like this because it was good, right? But I'm gonna leave it at that. I love how your book has original gods and time elements. Thank y'all. I appreciate that. Y'all, it's so wild. It's so wild to me because one of the things that I love about my life is the fact that when people read my books, sometimes they will like come into my DMs and be like, oh my God, I love it. I'm like, oh my God, thank y'all. Also, side note, if you do love my books, you can get this hoodie. It has my signature on the back and a quote from We Are the Origin. So get into it. There's a link in the description box below. But when they hop into the DMs or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, I love the gods. Because it's one of the things that I get complimented a lot about We Are the Origin and We Are Dying Gods is they like the gods, right? So I'm like, thank y'all. I appreciate that. But also, it's so funny when people are like, how did you, like, what inspired you? Like, is this based? I think one person came in and I say this, so if she's listening, it made me smile, right? It made me smile. It tickled me. But also it has happened to me before where people were like, oh, what is your god system based off of? Like, is it African mythology? Is it European mythology? Like Greek mythology? And I'm like, I fell asleep on an anime and I thought a reverse harem sounded great. Like, that's literally where it came from. There's no deeper meaning to it. It's not based off of any other mythology. And I feel like I want more books that are just like, this was my imagination, right? I don't know. I feel like more people needed to watch Reading Rainbow growing up. You know, y'all know the theme song. I'm not going to try to sing it, but y'all know the theme song. Y'all know the theme song that I'm talking about. It's like, but expand your imagination, homie. Like, I don't know. I did not look at all of these very, very, very exceptionally white gods and be like, oh, yes, I should model my very, 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 very black fantastical gods off of these people. No, bump that. And I also feel like there's space to talk about how people don't appreciate Black American fiction, that if it's Black, it either has to be trauma or African. And I also really don't appreciate that either. Because it's like, I am Black and I'm American and my fiction reflects that. Like, it is not African mythology at all. I know nothing about it, did not research it. And it's always wild because there's always someone in the comments who are like, oh, I can't wait to learn about your culture. And I'm like, learn what, homie? I'm from North Carolina. I don't, my peoples are from South Carolina. I don't know what you want me to teach you in this book. And also, everything is made up. I don't know what you're getting from it, but like, everything is made up. Maybe, you know what? There are things to be taken from it. There are things to be learned from Sarah, but I digress. I digress. It's just one of those things where I'm like, y'all, it's okay. It's okay. Being different. Okay. Oh no. Just for the press, but just say it's about vampires. So we need sparkling Black vampires. Look, I feel like there are a lot of vampire books that are coming out, but I feel like she's the only one who comped her book to Twilight. I'm not going to delve deeper into that. Just know that of the Black vampire books from traditional publishing that have been put out, the only one that I'm even mildly interested in and have any hope for is Immortal Dark by Tyga Skirma. That is the only one that I'm holding out any hope for because I already have a deep-seated feeling in my bones that the other ones are just not going to hit. They're going to play into every trope that has already been given to us, and it's not going to give us anything that's really going to feed us as a reader. And I could be wrong. I hope that I am wrong. But I'm also like, with the way my coins are set up, I am not taking a chance on these other authors that are just like, if there are certain comps, if you comp your book to certain things, I'm just going to be like, ooh, This is the thing that you watched. This is the media that you consumed, the storytelling that you ingested and decided to replicate. Oh, okay. I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm going to take my leave. Thanks. Also never imagined the white main characters as black in my mind, so I can't relate that part. I feel like there are several things that we could discuss, but it is also 11 o'clock. So this is your reminder that if you have not signed up for the Patreon to join the after chat, you absolutely should get into that, because the after chat is fun, you guys. It is very unfiltered, very unfiltered, but, brain stopped. Get into it. Link in the description box below. It is also on screen under the things, whatever. Y'all know where it's at. Let's see here. I hate when authors and readers say that. The only time that I've done that is when the author intentionally makes the MC a brown person descriptor. I don't imagine. Yeah, I don't do that. And authors who don't explicitly say it also are like, okay. All right. And I'm not saying you have to say that your character is black, but also I want very clear descriptions. I want very unambiguous wording so that we don't have the issue with like the Hermione thing. Like, I never said that she wasn't, bruh. You never said that she did. Stop. But yeah, I don't understand people who have to lay their lives down for trash. I want good food. Can't relate for liking trash. J Monet, you and me are on the same page. But yeah, did you say reverse harem? Best anime along with isekai. Less male wet dream vibes. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'll say this. We Are the Origin is very uniquely its own thing. The god system is unique to the gods. Everyone in the book loves Freya in book 1, and then book 2, is book 2. I'm not going to spoil anything. And it's just like, they do their own thing. They navigate in their own ways, and that's fine. That's fine. But no, it is not modeled after any other mythology. The anime that I was watching was Kiss Him, Not Me. I fell asleep on it. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, this is what it is. And I spent like the next 2 hours handwriting down all the gods, their origin stories, why they fell in love with Freya. Like, here's the thing. If you open We Are the Origin, literally, first 5 pages, you get the origin story of the gods, right? Because it is a story that is ingrained in the world. That's part of the world building, right? Everybody in the world knows the story of creation, right? But it's also the shortened version, because it's like, I know the full story. I know every little detail. I did not include that in the book. I included the important, relevant parts in the book. And you get more as you go along, but I feel like it is what it is. It's just fun. It's like, this made sense. I don't know. Mythical, magical beasts walking around that are actually, I don't know. Brandy makes them seem fun. They're super dangerous, but Brandy makes them seem fun. So whatever. But anyway, if you're interested in it, there's a link in the description box below. But yeah, Africans and African American are not the same. How do people in the USA get that mixed up? I will say this. It ain't us. Okay? It's them. We are not. It's completely different culture. And the after chat is where the conversation continues, both escalated and unfiltered. Yeah, if you guys don't know me, I have a potty mouth, and I am actually, I don't want to say rude. That's not how I would describe myself. I'm very honest, unfiltered and honest. The after chat is where that honesty comes to its peak, I will say. But yeah. There are a couple other things that we did not get to today in today's chat, because Ben said we should talk about the popularity of audiobooks, and how much people are willing to pay for an audiobook in comparison to a regular book, because reasons. And Joanne said, I'd love to get your opinion on the tarot magic discourse that was last week, and where to draw the line with how much you share about your story on social media. I would actually love to talk about that. I don't know about tarot. That's not my wheelhouse. But I do think I will say this last thing, and then we are moving over to the after chat. So join the Patreon, get in the Discord, right? But I will say this. When you're talking about sharing your story online and how much you're sharing on social media, I feel like there is a very distinct line between enticing and oversharing and giving away too much. And sometimes I feel like I run into authors who give away a little bit too much. For me, I err on the side of, I'm going to tell you what my book is about because I feel like that's what people care about, like as readers, as people who follow you. So with Project Necromancer, I'm going to tell you that it's about a necromancer. That's literally the name of the project. It's about a necromancer, and I'm going to tell you the log line, which is it's about two necromancers separated by millennium who must face off against each other to determine the fate of their world. That's literally what the book is about. I'm not telling you all of the nuances of the subplots and the things that are going into it. I'm not telling you all of the nitty-gritty details. If you are a part of my community, specifically the Lockhart server or like my author community, like the author council, then I will share like snippets and things and talk about it more in depth. Like specifically like Tatiana O.B., Celeste Hart, and La Purvis, they know a lot about this story because they're my author council, right? But the general public, I'm not giving away that much. And when I share snippets, it's literally like, okay, this is kind of like on brand for me, right? I write stories about Black girls who aren't all that nice. You can trust and believe that my main character is not going to be all that nice, and she's a necromancer. So there's going to be some past tensing on page because that's literally what she does. But I feel like the way that I'm talking about it now, I'm still not giving away more than what the book is about and what you would be able to glean from a synopsis. I feel like anything more than that would be too much, personally. So yeah, like I can tell you that there are romantic elements in the book, but it's not a romance. I can tell you that it's a dark fantasy, but it's not a horror. Like I can tell you those type of things. I feel like when you get into oversharing, people check out. That's just a personal thing that I have noticed, but I like to keep things close to the chest. So it gets you excited to want to read the book. I feel like sharing is kind of like when you make a trailer, like when y'all know when you like have those movies where you watch the trailer for the movie and you feel like, oh, I don't even need to watch the full movie now because I already know everything that's going to happen. I've already seen all the best moments. So there's no point like locking in for another 2 hours. I feel like the best way to do that in the bookish world is to avoid that. You don't want someone to feel like, oh, I don't need to read the entire book because you've told me the entire plot already, right? And I feel like that is something that I feel like more authors could work on, and also just straight up telling people what the book is about versus giving them vibes. Like I don't really care about tropes. Unless you were specifically writing a tropey parody, like specifically romance, like. How do I explain it? The way Kimberly Lemming talks about her books, I think works for her, right? Because knowing what's in it is what brings you to the book, right? But also she adds enough into it where it's like, you're still going to be on your toes. You still need to read the whole book. You still need to be locked in. I feel like she has a good balance. There are other authors that I'm not going to name names, but I also feel like they just give away too much. I'm like, I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to read it, but good luck. And if you give me an image with arrows and that's all you give me, that's undersharing. It's not enough. But yeah, I agree. I just say my book is a college set fantasy. Yeah, personally, I would like to know more than that. Like I don't say the plot, but the general plot of the book, like what happens in your fantasy, like what kind of fantasy is it? Is it like elemental magic? Is it like, what kind of magic is it, right? And why is it set at a college? Is it like a magic college, or is it just magic that happens at a regular college, right? Only because that gives me context for like, oh, is this a book that I'm going to enjoy? But that's just me. Everybody has their own thing. We're going to leave that at that. Because I don't want to start naming names. Yeah, no more arrows. No more arrows. But that being said, you guys, it is now 10 minutes after the hour, so we are moving over to the after chat. Thank you guys for being here, for keeping me company while my dearest Audra is out this week. But if you haven't already, go ahead and tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you don't miss when the Melanin Chat comes back. If you guys are interested in writing with me. March Madness is coming up, so I'll be writing on Thursday, and then the March Madness schedule is already up. So there is a link to it in the description box below. It's the very last link under relevant links. So you guys can check that out. We have a lot of people who are joining us this year, so I'm excited about it. But that being said, that's it. Thank you guys for being here. If you are part of the after chat, I am going to be popping into the Discord, so that is still happening. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. And until next time, you guys, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, you guys.